so beloved by the progressive academic intelligentsia elites down through their media mouthpieces and the mainstream media. The out of Africa theory. My golly gosh. You know what? When I first heard this theory when I was young, I could just feel it in my bones. It was bullshit. There was such a driving force behind it. You couldn't help but be swept along with the whole out of Africa thing, you know, like, wow, we all came out of Africa and, you know, the Africans that are there now, you know, that it was almost like used to try and, it is used to try and hoodwink Europeans into being extra, you know, kowtowing to black people in general, to the African folks. It was only when I started to gradually wake up, like 10 years or so ago, or rather I was waking up decades before that, it was when I fully started to open my eyes. It was when I started to see other scientists, brave scientists, challenging this very politically correct, cultural, Marxist-driven propaganda against Europeans and the out of Africa, and Asians, I might add as well to that. And it's only when I the first thing that challenged this openly that I saw, besides my own gut instinct, was some Wikipedia entries before Wikipedia was fully compromised, about scientists who challenged the theory using the theories that the races evolved or came about on separate landmasses, so Africa, Europe, Eurasia, Europe, etc., etc. Then I saw another theory which was even more far out, but possibly plausible. Was the theory that it was out of northern hemisphere, out of the Antarctic, or what is now the Antarctic realms. That was another theory, which got me thinking, interesting. This was all before World War II, by the way. You know, when scientists weren't going to get shut down by the universities for talking, you know, for having too much thought crime. So that was another thing. But the third thing that really got me at it was some scientists in China discovered some fossils, some skeletons, some skeletal remains that challenged the Lucy remains. Now, to those that don't know, the out of Africa theory received a big shot in the arm, shall we say, a big dose of cultural Marxist rocket fuel when they discovered the remains of this creature. And this creature was, the remains of this creature were very old. It was a female creature, thought to be bipedal, a very primitive being. And they named this creature Lucy. And the remains were found in deepest, darkest Africa. I think it was Kenya to be exact, somewhere around Kenya area. And all of a sudden, all these progressive, lefty, trendy, fucking academic scientists and all the rest of them were like, "Oh yeah, wow, we've got a step closer to the missing link. You know, this is, you know, undoubtedly." And some of them often use it as proof, you know, that we came out of Africa and all the rest of the BS. Ignoring the fact that, you know, Lucy has no genetic flipping links to any European. It's links maybe to Africans and so on and so forth, but nah, I don't think so. And so this theory, this Asian discovery, was of some remains that were Caucasioid. They used the term. This is the term. Even then, though, this was like 2005, 2006. Even then, they were like, but these remains are definitely Caucasioid. They were really like, you know, watching the words when they were being interviewed by the media in Asia, the foreign media that was come to Asia to interview these European scientists who made the discovery, and you know. It was a real challenge to the whole Lucy out of Africa theory, and I thought, great. I just knew there was more to it than met the eye, you know, about what the challenge is against the out of Africa theory, and there it was. So this was a big challenge. Another theory that the liberal that the enemy likes to use is but you know, the equatorial climate is where all life forms began. Well, they say that. They don't know that for sure. They just bloody make they theorize that is where life began. But you see, that's the way mainstream science works. It will selectively use data to support a political theory or to support a politically correct framework. If it fits the politically correct framework, they will justify what it is using that. So, for example, out of Africa theory from Africa equatorial region. We know it's like teeming with life because it's, on the equator. So it must be where the life evolved from. It must be proof of the out of Africa theory. Absolute bullshit. Unless those scientists can show me a working time machine, take me back in time, step by step showing the evolution from out of Africa, then you got me. But guess what? Unless they can do this, it's fantasy land, For example, I mean, I don't buy into the other theories about where Europeans came out of completely, but they're a lot more plausible than the flipping out of Africa theory is. I can tell you for nothing. It's just what they use to hit you over the head with the whole politically correct, egalitarian equality bullshit of the races. They say, oh, well, we all came from Africa, so we all must be equal because we all came from one continent, from one, they try and say it's like one or two ancestors, and from those other ancestors, what a load of, it's a load of fucking horse shit. I mean, come on, you've got to be absolutely brainwashed to believe that theory and follow it. You see, that's the thing about what we do. We critically think and we critically analyse. So we look at what the other theories are and how they tie into it and what they could mean. Ice Age came along. Who knows what was it like before the Ice Age? What were the, I mean, I happen to believe that what we now know as seasons, we haven't always had the 4 seasons. It was originally a very gentle gradient of the seasons, so there was a very gentle shifting of the seasons. It was almost like you had one season. That we don't know how long the Earth's wobble has been wobbling for. That might have been a more recent thing. So this plays into the out of Africa theory because the wobble is what gives the equator its thing, because it's always shifting up and down, up and down. The sun is oscillating from the Tropic of Capricorn, Tropic of Cancer. You don't get that when the Earth doesn't have if a planet doesn't have a wobble, the equator will be, the seasons will be more spread out. It'll be a spread out season of a longer duration. It'll be very, very gradual. So if there was a wobble, it would have been a more gentle one. I would hypothesize. So you've got a lot of ammunition against the out of Africa theory now, and it is much needed. Now, the other thing that the liberals like to say is, oh well, why haven't we found, old remains in Europe? Why haven't we found old remains in Eurasia? Why haven't we found older remains in China or Asia? There's a very good reason for that. Europe is so heavily populated and built on, it's very bloody difficult to go looking for remains. It's bloody almost impossible. You've got to get so much red tape, planning permission, government bureaucracy interference, and I mean especially when you get to China's region of control, Asian regions of control. They are very protective of what you do there. They don't want you to go digging around and looking for secrets. They want to know the secrets and they want to have them for themselves. And for evidence supporting this, look no further than the Tarim Basin mummies. When they were discovered, while they didn't exactly challenge the out of Africa theory, they did very much challenge the European regions of control in ancient times. You see, up to that point, the liberals would have us believe that Europeans were like located to one tiny area of like Eurasia, like the border of Asia and Europe, up in the steppes of Russia. And while there was a tribal migration going on there, the truth was we were all over the place, folks. We were all over the place, and I'd say we were way into China, more than even the Tarim Basin mummies, because they were they're on the western fringes of China. So this was a big shot in the arm for the for European Western civilization against the fucking liberal Marxists. But I'm going off on a tangent there. So you have to understand, with the out of Africa theory, there's a lot of challenging theories to it, and the only reason it gets the airtime that it does is because it suits the agenda of what they call globalism. Globalism loves the out of Africa theory because it supports the whole one world race goal that they have. If we can persuade people that they aren't a unique people and that they are all mixed, then they're going to be more likely to follow our goal and our dream of getting everyone mixed up together, because this is what they want. This is for another time video to go into that, but that's another aspect of the out of Africa theory. So universities love to push it because they get funded. Globalists love to push it because it pushes their agenda. Liberals love to push it because it makes them feel good and donate to Africa and help out all these starving Africans, when it actually well, it actually perpetuates the misery if you research the subject and the geopolitics of it. And so you've got those reasons that it's being pushed. So what are the other theories? Well, the other theories I'll go into in other videos, but they are the polar theory of the North Pole, some say the South Pole, some say both, and it goes very deep from there. Another one is that the races evolved separately on different continents, which may well have happened. And the fourth theory is that it was all out of the Middle Eastern zone, the territory of the Middle Eastern zone. I don't buy into that theory, by the way, but that's just what some folks state. It's the Garden of Eden theory, I think it's maybe known as. And so you have this, and it's all very interesting and stimulating for the mind. And no matter what theory you belong to, although any person who's of a Western civilization, like European nationalist slant, who goes for the out of Africa theory, I normally raise eyebrows. I normally think, really? You really believe that? You haven't really looked into the other theories or maintained an open mind. So what I always maintain is an open mind, and the fact that while you cannot necessarily prove the other theories like the way the mainstream science tries to prove out of Africa theory, it remains a plausible theory that you should at least lean towards, for the sole purpose of it does not allow us to be compromised and basically taken apart because there's many ways that we're taken down. It's like an octopus, the octopus has its tendrils flapping around and it's trying to encircle one angle of what we do and crush it out, strangle it of life, and guy, I personally just believe, I feel that the out of Africa theory is nonsense. And another theory, the theory that I feel is more the way, is probably the fact that our ancestors were not of Africa, were not of the African gene. Genetics proves that we aren't from Africa. And Carl Jung wrote of ancestral memories. And if our ancestral memories are telling us that we're Europeans, then it's pretty bloody obvious we are Europeans and we aren't of Africa. Hence the out of Africa theory. Torpedoes away, blown out of the water, wave goodbye to the sinking out of Africa theory ship for European people. European people came about through another way, through another means, not the out of Africa theory. And that's all for this ramble, folks. Stay tuned for the next one. As always, folks, Europa Infinitus.